Mixtape with Scott, a podcast devoted to listening to the personal stories of living economists as told by them. I am your host, Scott Cunningham, a professor of economics at Baylor University. Today, it is my profound honor to have on the show Dr. Andreu Mas-Colell, a towering figure in the field of microeconomic theory and general equilibrium. Many of you probably gasped when you saw that he was on the show this week, not because you have some deep interest in the existence proofs of competitive equilibria, but rather because Dr. Mas-Colell has been your teacher, along with Dr. Michael Winston and Jerry Green. They taught you and me graduate microeconomics. Their book has been the most widely used textbook on microeconomic theory for decades now, and probably will be for a while. So it is with great honor that he was my guest this week. This interview covers a long life. We cover growing up in Barcelona, Catalonia, Spain, where he was arrested for getting into what you might call good trouble, for printing out leaflets about democracy and other forms of protest during a dictatorship. Made his way to the United States, where he got his PhD from the University of Minnesota in 1972, then went on to California, Berkeley for a postdoc, as well as ending up at Harvard, where the lecture notes for Micro 1, 2, and 3 ultimately turned into the textbook that you have sitting on your shelf. He returned to Spain in 1995, where he established the Barcelona School of Economics, as well as became deeply involved in Catalan politics, and most recently actually faced a contentious legal battle related to his connection to the Catalan independence, a subject that we're going to delve into in the latter part of the interview. Before I turn you over to it, though, I wanted to just say a couple of things. First, I am not a microtheorist. Furthermore, I don't know the sociological history of general equilibrium and all its tributaries over the late 20th and early 21st century. I really like to know that kind of thing when I talk to these core people, but I don't. So you're probably going to know more than me. A random person would know more than me about general equilibrium theory. You're going to be a little surprised maybe that I don't pick up on the low-hanging fruit opportunities to go down interesting stories. And, you know, I wish I could have, but I didn't. If I held myself, though, to the standard of being an expert on everything before I interviewed those experts, I wouldn't interview anybody. The podcast really isn't about me. It's about the people that I interview, and it's about the profession, and it's about you. And so what we lack in technical depth, we make up for it in the breadth of what we cover. So we basically traverse the life of a man who is not just an economic giant, but also a public servant, an activist, and really also importantly, a deeply committed educator. The episode's a little bit longer as a result of that. It's 2 hours long, but I promise it's worth every minute. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, join us in this fascinating journey through the life and contributions of Dr. Andreu Mas-Colell. I hope you find this as interesting, as inspiring as I did. Thanks so much. Like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. Thanks a lot. Well, it is my honor to have with me this week on the Mixtape podcast with me someone that I think everyone listening has known for ever since they started their first year of graduate school. Dr. Andreu Mas-Colell. Is it Andre?
Andreu.
Okay. All right. Well, this is Dr. Mas-Colell, Andreu. It is a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here too.
Okay. Can you tell me right now what where you're working these days and what your title is?
I am an emeritus professor at the Universitat Pompeu Fabra of Economics in Barcelona, Catalonia, Spain, and I'm also affiliated with the Barcelona School of Economics.
Oh, okay, great. And how long have you been there? How long have you been back in Barcelona?
Since 95. When I was 50, me and my family made the jump from the United States to Europe.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, before we get started, I wanted to kind of start with what's called an icebreaker where I'm from. What's a vacation that you took as a young person with your family that to this day you still will remember with a lot of fondness?
Yes, this is an icebreaker, and the vacation I remember the most from my youth is not with my family, and that may not be an independent event. So it was my first vacation not with my family. Was a trip in the summer with friends organized by the school. So there was a teacher of the school with us, a priest actually, and we made a trip to Britain
Oh,
and the whole Britain, and it was my first trip without my parents to a foreign country, a much freer country than Spain was at that time.
mm.
And so I remember the cathedrals, the movies, and then I remember that I took a swim in Loch Ness.
Oh, wow. You
No
did?
monster, no monster, no. Very cold, but no monster.
How old were you?
16, I believe.
Oh, wow. Wait, so why did you go on that? Was that with a high school group or something?
It was a high school group, not directly from my school, but it was a summer activity. It was not the
Ah.
first one. I had done some other ones, but shorter. But that was a whole month going from town to town in Britain.
Oh, I bet that was fun. So you had never, so you went with your other, was it most of your high school friends? It was like arranged through your school?
With a number of high school friends.
Oh,
That
oh,
is
that's
that is correct.
ah,
Male and female.
male and female. Wow. That sounds wonderful. I've never been to Loch Ness. That's
Okay, so I recommend that when you go to take a swim.
yeah, take a swim. I'll check and see. Maybe this time the monster's out. Maybe it'll be out this time. Well, so you grew up. So tell me about where you grew up exactly in Spain. Where?
I grew up in Barcelona. I was born in Barcelona, and I grew up there. I went to high school. No, I'm sorry. I did my primary and secondary education in the same school, just in front of my house.
Mm.
It was a religious school. Uh, as many in Spain at that time of a local order called the Escola Pia, and that's where I spent 12 years.
Mm. Mm. That was a Catholic. That was a Catholic religious school.
Yes, in Franco's time, religious school meant Catholic schools.
Was that the main form of primary and secondary schooling throughout
No, no,
Catalan?
no,
Oh,
no,
was
no.
it?
There was also public schools. It was 50-50.
Mm.
And I went to that school for another reason, that it was decent and it was just in front of where I live, so it was easy for my parents to send me there.
Mm.
And it was not great, an okay, not great school, but it was adequate.
Mm. Mm. So, what did your parents do for a living?
My mother was a housewife, and my father owned a small business, a small hardware business.
Mm.
First, it was retail, and he made it grow to a wholesale business. It was in the family until 7 or 8 years ago.
Mm. How many siblings did you have?
None. I
Oh,
am
you were an only child?
an only child with
Oh.
with all the advantage and disadvantages of having and with that background, I ended up having 3 children. So that means that the experience of being an only child was not the one that I meant to duplicate.
Yeah. What did you love about your childhood, being an only child in your family, and just what are your best memories of when you were young?
I had a good youth, loving parents. I don't dare to select here and there. It was a middle class family which progressively became upper middle class. I had a fortunate youth, so I wouldn't go beyond this.
Well, so I don't really know where, I don't know. I was at Barcelona a month or two ago, and so I saw the city.
How long ago? Oh, yes.
It was a month ago, or what, right? Was it when I emailed you?
Correct.
And it was beautiful. But did you grow up sort of in the city center, or were you outside of the city, or what was it like?
City, absolutely in the city center, just in the border of the old city. So Barcelona has an old city and then an expansion around the old city. So my youth was in the expansion, but next to the old city. So I am very much a city boy, total city boy.
Yeah.
I saw trees in the summer when we went to a summer house in maybe 20 kilometers from Barcelona, but otherwise I only saw the trees in the streets. Actually, Barcelona is full of trees in the streets, and when I started to travel towards the north of Europe, I was very surprised to see that cities in Germany, for example, did not have trees in the streets. Very good reason for that. But for me, a street without trees was not really a street.
Well, so what kinds of activities did you like doing as a kid? Were there games that you liked, or reading, or socializing? What kind of things? What did you enjoy as a young man?
I have learned that in my family I had the reputation of always reading. So I guess I must have been a good reader. For me, it was totally natural. Besides that, I played a lot of chess until I went cold turkey when I was 17 or 18, because I saw it was too addictive. Also, it was not that good. So reading and walking in the city, I have always liked that. I love architecture. In my youth, I also went weekends to the hills, to excursion, trekking with an athletic. With a club.
Wow.
I was never in the Boy Scouts because there were no Boy Scouts in my school, but I could have been in the Boy Scouts.
Yeah. But you were a city boy. You loved the city.
Absolutely. I was and I am a city boy.
You are a city boy. So, so what were you like as a, okay. So I also had a question. This is kind of random, but when I was in Spain, I started to learn a little bit more about, it seems like Catalan has had a unique part within Spain. And I just saw one thing. Were you discouraged from speaking Catalan as a young person, and you were supposed to speak Spanish mainly? Did I read that correctly?
At the school, I was supposed to speak Spanish only. Of course, among ourselves, among the students, we spoke Catalan or Spanish, depending on the mother tongue, but that was in the informal side. All the formal activities of the schools were in Spanish by law. At home, my first language is Catalan. My mother and father were Catalan speakers. My mother was born in Catalonia, and probably Catalan from many generations. My father moved when he was a teenager from Valencia, from Alicante actually, but there they are Catalan, they are Catalan or Valencian speaker, which is the same. So the language at home was Catalan. But I learned Spanish very early because of school. But no, at school by law, Catalan was not allowed.
I guess I was asking just because I just wanted to understand the context. It wasn't was it politically tense? Because I was trying to read a little bit. There was an entire Wikipedia page about language in Catalan. And I know that sometimes in some places that like requirement to only speak a certain language is a reflection of some political tension. And I just was wondering, was that something, was that the case, or is that a misreading of it?
No, of course that was the case.
Okay.
The marginalization and non-officiality and no Catalan school, etc., was an imposition of the Franco dictatorship. I mean, Spain was a dictatorship. Franco had won a civil war with the help of Mussolini and Hitler against essentially a coalition of Republican and left Spanish forces, and in the case of Catalonia and the Basque Country, autonomist forces. I don't want to call them nationalist forces, not to mix with other things, but let's say self-government forces. And in fact, during the Republic, both the Basque Country and Catalonia had an autonomy statute, and there was a Catalan government, there was a Basque government, and that was part of the things Franco rebelled against. So he won the war, and he eliminated the left, he eliminated democracy, and he eliminated the autonomous regimes in the Basque Country and in Catalonia. And in the case of the language, he imposed that all the newspapers and media had to be in Spanish, and the schools had to be in Spanish. This in the 40 years of dictatorship, this became progressively softened. So this was very, very tough at the beginning of the 40s, when it looked that the Axis would win, then started to soften up, and by the end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s, there were many publications in Catalan. They were allowed then, and the school was more mixed.
That must have. Go ahead. Sorry.
The Catalan issue was but let me say, since you're asking politics, yes. I mean, the thing to retain is Spain was a dictatorship, and therefore, progressively, there was a democratic movement developed, mostly involving the younger generation, and that was so all over Spain. And university students were very implicated in that, and they were at the forefront of democratic protest, and the protests were for democracy.
Yeah.
And in this package, in the case of Catalonia and the Basque Country, there was also the reivindication of the rights of the Catalan community. So by the end of the dictatorship, the slogan in the streets was amnesty, taking people out of the jail, democracy, and autonomy, an statute of autonomy regime.
You were watching this as a young person?
So the political issue in Catalonia was not just the Catalan issue,
yeah,
but it was also the more general democracy issue.
And this is, so when you're describing that, are you describing that you were sort of living, watching that softening happen? Is that right? So you would have been, as a young person, under that much more harsher period of a dictatorship, and then watching it as you went through high school and then college, you were observing changes?
Yes, but there were also changes. Yeah, it was changes in all sides. My own family was on the mother's side. The father's side was very apolitical, but from my mother's side, it was in the defeated side. I got at home the anti-Franco sentiment and the Catalan sentiment. My mother, for example, when I was a child, there was a whole year that instead of reading me stories at night before going to sleep, she will get me to sleep with explaining me the history of Catalonia.
Your mother did?
My mother did.
Your mother's side was more political?
More political.
Got it.
The pro-democracy feeling, I got it at home. The other people, but then in the street, you didn't act on it.
Right.
But as I went through high school, and especially in university, I already arrived to the university with a strong political consciousness, let's say. I'm very eager to participate in the university democratic movement, which I knew it existed.
Right.
It was already perceptible.
Yeah. Because, the reason why I asked this is I was just kind of thinking about it. A lot of the times I have guests and they're Americans. And so the American guests, it's always kind of a peaceful time, although there was the Vietnam War. But as I was just kind of thinking, you must have gone through, even at the high school level, just this level. Was there like a level of political agitation that you would have felt about the injustice of what your political surroundings were like, even as in high school? That was not an uncommon. You and your classmates had that level of thoughtfulness.
In my time in high school was not yet that common. Later it became very common. But as I got to university, my years at university were the years where the political activism was a minority very minority activity in which I participated heavily.
Oh,
Until 5 years later, it was a widespread thing. So there were years from 1962 to 1966, 67, where the Spanish university made the flip from being quiescent with a focus of dissent to being overwhelmingly anti-Franco.
So when you were at the University of Barcelona, it must have been a little risky then to be a pro-democratic student in a public way. Is that right?
Yes, it was risky. It was also very exciting.
Yeah.
So I became a political agitator, which study economics on the side.
Yeah. Okay.
I was arrested a number of times, put on trial once, but I was lucky because, I had fellow students that ended up spending years in prison. I was in two pieces. I only spent 40 days, the one that I had, I was in a trial by the judge, and we ended up being declared innocent. So I was fortunate, and didn't suffer any damage.
What were the charges, or what were the kinds of activities that would have led to something like an arrest back then?
Well, in political agitation involved political agitation, so making underground cells, calling to demonstrations, printing leaflets, and the police was after us, and once in a while they got to us, and then we recover, etc. I was on the left, and so, but nothing. I don't think nothing particularly notable in relation to the experience of university life under dictatorship. So over my life, I have known colleagues, economists, etc., coming from countries with this type of regimes that also went through similar experiences. Right. All the while, let me say that my very purposeful purpose during university times was not to lose any university year. The studies were 5 years, so my purpose was to pass all the in due time. And from the moment I entered university, it was clear to me that after I finished and did the military service, I will go abroad to learn economics. So I learned during the university because I had to pass the courses and because there were some interesting professors, but it was very clear in my mind that to become an academic economist, and I wanted to be that from year 17, and I knew that university was my thing, that I had to get my degree with decent grades, and then make the necessary moves to go to study abroad. And my idea was from very early that abroad meant Britain, rather than France, because France was, let's say, let's say, conventional economics, what I will call conventional economics, but the economics I wanted to learn. So modern economics was, it was clear to me, less developed, formalized, less formalized as a teaching, by a teaching conduit in France that in Britain. So my aim was to go to Britain. Then I ended up in the United States because I had a because I got a fellowship for the United States and not for Britain. And because when I got that fellowship, and I am jumping, when I got that fellowship, I saw that some of the professors that I could have in Minnesota were like Leo Hurwitz, were already professors I have encountered during my university years. During the time that in my university years I devoted to study, which was, I don't know if I should be ashamed to confess, which was less than to agitate, but still a considerable amount. I fall in love with mathematical economics, with microeconomics, with Kuhlman's three essays, with Debre's theory of value, which I found in French in the library, and which fascinated me, but didn't get a word from it. We didn't understand a word, but fascinated me. I read it in French. I didn't know English then. I also read the history of economic analysis of Schumpeter in Italian, because I didn't know English, and it was translated into Italian. And and I also discovered during my studies that I was good at math, something I didn't know. That, in one occasion, if I can explain an anecdote, I had to rush from jail. I was 7 days, and they put me off 1 hour before the exam of mathematics. So I rushed to the exam. I got in time for the exam, and I got a very good grade. And so I said, Andreu, you must be good in math. Anyhow.
That's right. That's that was probably a good signal that you were good at it. What happened at age 17 that made you fall in love with economics? What happened?
In Spain, as in most in Europe, and in contrast with the United States, one has to choose a path in life at 17. It's absurd. It's absurd. But here in Europe, we read stories of American successful people and say successful in business, and they say he started as a historian, or he studied philosophy, and you say, wow, how strange. And then you understand then later one understands how is the American system. You basically have a liberal arts education, and you have a major and a minor. In Europe, you declare what you want to be in life at 17, which is rather absurd.
Right.
So when I was 17, I wanted to be a philosopher. But I already was tracked into sciences because of my baccalaureate didn't allow me to go into philosophy. So I choose the most literary. It's a paradox, isn't it? Given what I did later. So I choose the most literary thing I could take with a science baccalaureate. And that was economics. Besides economics, had two other advantages. One is my father loved that I took economics because he had the hope that I will follow the family business. That's one of the reasons I don't like the idea. I have never liked the idea of being an only child, because you may find yourself with the situation of having to disappoint your parents if you don't want to follow the family business. I must say that my parents were very understanding when I didn't do that. But economics opened that door. And the second reason is that in my time, economics was the choice track to if you wanted to change the world.
Yeah, right.
So you wanted that, and now probably is not so completely, but probably maybe sociology or political science or anthropology will be more attractive. But at my time, if you wanted to change society, the economics was a good thing.
Yeah.
Then when I entered economics, I began to study it, and I fell in love with it, and didn't have the temptation to change it.
So in college, you declare this econ track in high school.
Yeah, yes, at the end of high school.
At the end of high school. But it was more of a compromise because you wanted to be a philosopher and econ was literary, and then it had these other externalities.
Correct.
But then you actually enroll at the University of Barcelona in a class and something changes. Is that right? You actually start to like it. You start to love it.
Well, I was perfectly predisposed. I think that people, or most people, and that includes myself, are not so predetermined in life. Maybe if I had gone into philosophy, I would be a philosopher today. Or maybe if I had gone into mathematics, I would be a mathematician. I don't know. I only can say that I liked economics. I had a propensity from the beginning for the more theoretical aspects, for the more formal aspects, as I have said already, Koopmans, Debré, many others, and in a natural way, I gravitated toward theory, although initially, and because of the people with which I trained, it was macroeconomics, and continue with my progression. When I finished my studies in Barcelona, actually, I finished them in Bilbao because I was kicked out of Barcelona, but I could finish in Bilbao. I went to Madrid and spent a couple of years being a sailor in the morning. And if you think there's a bit of a paradox on that, if you think on the location of Madrid, but yes, I was a sailor in the morning, and in the afternoons I was working with a university professor, Juan Rojo. I'm sorry, Ángel Rojo, which he later became prominent president of the Bank of Spain. At that time, was a university professor, trained abroad, was a macroeconomist. I worked with him, and he's the one that provided me and friends of mine with the possibility of going to Minnesota with the idea of studying macroeconomics. But as soon as I got to Minnesota, I followed the microeconomics line.
So you felt, even at Barcelona, in those undergraduate classes, in those econ undergraduate classes, you could tell even then you wanted to study theory. Even at the undergraduate level, you could feel it.
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely.
And it was micro. It wasn't macro theory. It was micro that you were drawn to. Although with your kind of work,
it was at that point it was more macro than micro. Actually, anecdote. I am not ashamed about on this because it doesn't tell me as much as it tells about the teacher that was occupying the place at that time. I failed macro 3 times, and only passed the thing in the 4th time.
Oh yeah, the macro preliminary
The
exam.
micro was
Oh,
not prelim.
you failed the micro exam 3 times.
The micro exam, I failed it three times
Oh,
uh, because, and it is a miracle that I was not turned off from micro. The reason is we had a textbook. We had
uh-huh.
a book at school, and the textbook it was a micro textbook, very influenced by Stackelberg.
Yeah,
Stackelberg was the founder of Spanish academic economics
really.
rising. No,
He had a
uh,
textbook he had a
no,
micro
no.
tech.
He trained a number of
Oh,
students.
got it.
He moved from, as you know, Stackelberg had a history with the Nazi regime.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And he moved to Spain in 43, so before the end. Before
Oh
the end.
gosh.
And he trained a nucleus of students in Madrid that
Huh.
were then the founders of Spanish academic economics.
Wow. Did
One
not
of
know
them,
that.
yes, there is even a little history on that that has to do with the Stackelberg model
Yeah.
and the corporate direction. So he, you could interpret the Stackelberg models as saying that it is impossible for all the corporations to be leaders. One has to be leader, the other has to be follower. So if you
Right.
try to get to leaders, it doesn't work. And this doesn't work. It means you have to have a regulated economy. So corporates have to be regulated, and that fitted with the spirit of a corporate.
That was Stackelberg's own
Directed economic, but I don't know those things too well.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, and I don't want to make aspersions on
Yeah.
Stackelberg. He was a great economist, but anyhow, he was the founder. He moved from Germany to Spain in 43, was the founder, and
Oh,
one of his disciples was was the origin of all the micro university professors in Spain, and he
wow.
wrote a book which is not bad. The book is not bad. It's better that it is not bad, but it's brutally dogmatic. It's
It's
a book.
brutally dogmatic.
It's a dogmatic book. So it's the doctrine. So it's the doctrine as and was for me hard to. So when I was answering questions in my exams, I tried to be a bit creative. That was the book.
Oh, got
So
it.
the fourth time, I learned the book by memory.
Yeah, right.
I
I didn't
learned the
see where
book
you were
by
going with that.
memory
Yep.
and pass.
Right, right.
So this should have turned me off micro, but it didn't.
Yeah.
Because I then discovered the interest in micro, and I discovered it in Cummins,
Mm,
in the debates over socialism. Remember, I was on the left, so the debates over socialism were interesting.
mm.
Uh, Oscar Lange, etc. So
Yeah.
the more formal economics was very attractive to me. Also, in general, the style of teaching economics at that time was with variation. There were better professors and less better professors, but it was on this issue, there are 7 opinions.
Right.
Somebody thinks this, somebody thinks that. And my inclination was to know what should I think by deriving it myself,
Yeah.
trying to grasp theory from inside rather than from an external exposure. I'm talking to
Absolutely.
you. Should
Absolutely.
interrupt me and keep me on track.
Yeah. Did you find at Minnesota professors that were more like that?
Oh
That had
yes, absolutely. There
oh,
But first, an anecdote why I went to Minnesota, because there was a fellowship available. Why was there a fellowship available? Because Walter Heller, you remember Walter Heller was a macroeconomist. He had been chief of economic advisors and the right hand in that capacity of Kennedy. He set up with the help of a wealthy Minnesota businessman. He set up fellowships to train Spanish economists in Minnesota to prepare for the after Franco.
Oh, so there was still a connection to Spain, even at Minnesota.
Yes, the connection was soybeans.
Oh,
so Spain imported soybeans, Minnesota exported soybeans.
Yeah.
And some of the trade civil servants on the ministries were not corrupt at all, but would use the opportunity to incentivize academic activities. And wealthy Minnesota businessman, which gave the fellowship, was also known as the soybean king. Or as Dwayne Andreas. He played a minor role in Watergate. And so he put the money. So he was involved with Spain, and he put the money between democratic civil servants and university professors in Spain, Walter Heller with the economic vision, Dwayne Andreas being interested in fluid relations with Spain. This program was created, and it has been very successful. There were almost 40 in the years. There were almost 40 Spanish economists.
Really?
That got their PhD in Minnesota, and some of them became ministers in Spain or later on.
Wow.
So much so that during a while, American trained economists were known in Spain collectively as Minnesotos.
Yeah. Wow.
To the irritation of the ones that had not been trained in Minnesota.
Wow.
Anyhow.
So your first year?
To Minnesota, yes, I found professors.
Yeah.
I found Leo Hurwitz, which influenced me a lot. I found Hugo Sonnensheim. I found Ket Richter, that ended up being my thesis director. I found John Chipman, and I found fellow students like John Roberts. We were at the same time.
Oh, wow.
There.
So what were your expectations of finding a dissertation topic when you got there? Was it just what was it gonna? How were you expected to find what you were going to do your dissertation on, and how did you do it?
Well, one learns it along the way. No, I didn't know the mechanics of finding a dissertation topic, so I learned along the way how was an American PhD program. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out how it works. So I concentrated 2 years in courses. I took many courses in the math department. That was a characteristic of the Minnesota training. If you had a theory inclination, they send you to the math department. So I did my real analysis. And I also learned the art of taking courses a bit opportunistically. So my first year, I saw that Hurwitz was going to leave for Harvard next year. He left for Harvard during 2 years. He came back, but I saw that I would only have 1 year with Hurwitz, so I took an advanced course with him, and that was quite a training to jump from Spain to an advanced course with Hurwitz. But I was doing well, and so after a while, I felt very comfortable. A common experience on non-Americans getting to the US is when you arrive there and you feel intimidated, and when you cross paths with fellow students, you think that they are all Samuelsons in potency. So that what are you, the imposter syndrome?
Right.
So I see you are not superstitious.
Yeah, these cats will not leave me alone.
So there is a bit of the imposter syndrome, but if I had an imposter syndrome, by February or March, it was gone.
Oh, okay. It was gone.
Yeah, I mean, I see that I could.
You could do it.
Could move, I could do it, and I could perform normally.
Yeah. Well, tell me about your tell me about that dissertation experience. So, I mean, this was work that you where did this work end up becoming?
My dissertation ended up being in consumer theory, and it was the result of the union of two things. On the one hand, there was in Minnesota a lot of interest in consumer theory, reveal preference theory. There was a book promoted by Richter, Chipman, Sonnensheim, and Hurwitz on all these topics. So I became very imbued in consumer theory.
Ah, okay.
At the same time, I was doing general equilibrium. And in general equilibrium at that time, the light that was coming from California was strong. So it was the Berkeley School with Debray, the theory of value.
Yeah.
In Minnesota, one of the general equilibrium course was reading and studying the Debray's theory of value, which, by the way, I ended up translating into Spanish with a colleague.
Really?
A couple of years later, so I was pretty interested, you could say, fascinated by this. Then something interesting happened in the summer of 1970. The summer meeting of the European meeting of the Econometric Society was in Barcelona, which was something notable because that was in the Franco period and there were not that many meetings like that. And so I saw, that was my second year in graduate school, so I saw that it was in Barcelona, so I thought I had to be there. So I wrote a paper which was accepted, and it's perfectly forgettable. It was probably accepted because I was a local. I thought that I was a local from Barcelona, and some affirmative action had to be practiced. But anyhow, I was in that meeting, and there I heard the presidential address of Gerard Debré.
Oh.
He posed a problem. I could even say the problem that smooth preference attends in the set of preferences. And when I went back to Minnesota, I solved the problem. It wasn't too difficult, actually. At least I had a good idea that worked. So that was my thesis, was with Richter, and that That, I guess, was the door to the postdoc in Berkeley, which came after, was a postdoc financed by the grants of Debré, which was very kind, and Dan McFadden, who had been a Minnesota PhD, and so was friends with Richter.
Yeah.
So Richter, Sonnenschein recommended me, and they provided a postdoc for me in Berkeley.
Yeah.
And there I went. Originally, I always thought that I would be coming back to Spain at the end of my 4 years, and that wasn't. And I had an offer, so I had an offer to come back, but at that point it paid my while to spend time in Berkeley, because I could always go back later.
Yeah.
Usually that ends with not going back. Is like an open-ended problem, an open-ended horizon without transversality condition. It always pays to do it next year. In my case, eventually I did. My wife always jokes with me that when we met and decided to spend a life together, I told her that I really wanted to keep open the possibility of going back, and then she thought I had forgotten about it, and 25 years later, we did it, and she was quite enthusiastic about it, because by then she was very socialized in Spain too. So we had in my thesis and Berkeley.
Yeah. So you go to Berkeley. So had Dr. Debreu won the Nobel Prize by the time you go to Berkeley?
No. That was I was already at Harvard when he got the Nobel Prize.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Did y'all become close while you were at? I mean, so
yes. I was a member of his school. Let's say I had my office close to him.
Okay.
I would talk to him often. Although, as you investigate a bit, he was not aloof, but he was a very serious and composed person, always speaking in full sentences and always thinking very well what he was saying. But yes, I was very close to him. People consider me one of his close followers.
Well, so go ahead.
You could ask. I was in Minnesota at a time where Hurwitz was setting up the research program of incentives. So I heard the term incentive compatibility from my very early academic life, the idea of using Nash equilibrium, etc. I follow the general equilibrium line, not at that time this let's say mechanism game theory line, and I have wondered sometimes why, because it was intellectually very stimulating too, in fact, very stimulating. And I guess the answer probably is those 2 years that Hurwitz went to Harvard.
Oh, really?
He went, so I follow another track, but probably if he had not gone to Harvard, maybe I would have become a mechanism design person. Who knows?
So wait, so your research agenda, it forms at Berkeley. What's going to be your long-term research agenda? It's not really at Minnesota. It's at Berkeley.
No, it's Minnesota. It's Minnesota too, because Minnesota, Sonnenschein, etc. Richter, also Hurwitz. No. Those two things are not that separated.
Got it. Yeah.
Part of the same. But yes, in Berkeley, I became a general equilibrium Berkeley type.
So had you not gone to Berkeley, but you had stayed, what would have been the different kind of counterfactual Mas-Colell that I could be talking to right now? He would have not been. What's sort of the piece that you get at I just don't have a quite good understanding of the history and the geography of everything.
Yes, well, if I say take my colleague there, which was John Roberts.
Yeah.
John Roberts went to Northwestern, and in Northwestern concentrated on mechanism,
right,
on mechanism design. Grew it from there. Then a number of the people in Northwestern moved to Stanford, and Stanford became a hotbed of mechanism design.
Right.
And then the seed that Hurwitz set at Harvard in those 2 years that he was at Harvard, an Arrow at Harvard, Arrow, Hurwitz, and seminars they do there, those generated Maskin, Meyerson, Gibbard, etc. So who knows? Anyhow,
yeah, you could have seen yourself doing that. That was that you could have imagined yourself like Dr. Roberts. That would have been interesting, doing mechanism design.
Of course, it would have been interesting.
Yeah.
No, I am not that narrow, so
right. Because you're very creative. Yeah.
I am interested by everything. So I'm interested in economic history too, except that I am incompetent in economic history. I know I couldn't do economic history, but mechanism design is and game theory intellectually very important, and they have been very important in economics. And in fact, let me say that in a second second part in my life, this one more concentrated in Europe, since '95, I'm jumping over Berkeley and Harvard. In '95, when I came to Barcelona, I concentrated in game theory connected to economics, but in game theory, in a long research program on adaptive game theory that was after writing the textbook. Joined with Sergio Har, who is a professor at the Hebrew University. So that's my main chunk of research life.
I see.
So the Berkeley is general equilibrium. Harvard is also general equilibrium, with some excursions into game theory. And when I come to Barcelona, it's game theory.
Well, so I'm an empiricist, and so the co-authoring for an empiricist has got this, a particular kind of division of labor, and I'm sure that division of labor amongst co-authors who are empiricists now is different than it would have been 30 years ago. But I can imagine, I don't want to assume that the division of labor in like micro theory looks the exact same. So I'm just kind of curious, when you get to Harvard and you start to kind of be in a society of really top theory, micro theory people, really one of the sort of the home, such a central part of the science, what exactly are you getting from your colleagues then that ends up being just so important in the progress that you make in your research agenda?
Let's say, let me start a bit. Let me backtrack a bit about say first about Berkeley to see the difference. Berkeley, I was in a group which was very focused on general equilibrium theory, and there were people all around the world came through. There were always lots of Europeans, etc. So it was a large group of permanent visitors, and visitors very focused on a specific area. Don't get me wrong. The specific area means with contact with lots of people, but it was considered in general equilibrium, and I did work in many aspects of it, and but in particular, I wrote a monograph, general equilibrium from a differentiable point of view. So methodologically, I became for some years a specialist in applying differentiability methods into general equilibrium.
Okay.
So it was very focused. When I moved to Harvard, I had colleagues in theory, but Harvard was not concentrated on a single area of theory. It was more, I was doing general equilibrium. Eric Maskin, when he came after me.
Yeah.
Was doing mechanism design. Jerry Green was doing a little bit of everything, but let's say asymmetric information. Mike Winston, industrial organization. If we say micro theories, it was more varied. That also showing the students. The students at Berkeley, the students I relate to, were very good, but they were tending to work in general equilibrium. At Harvard, it was broader, and I interacted with many students which were not working in general equilibrium, but working in other things. So that was one difference between the two places. But both in Berkeley and at Harvard, I was involved in the first year micro sequence. And in the case of Harvard, from that first year micro sequence, came out the textbook with Winston and Green.
That came out. When did you? What year were you after you graduated when you started that book?
Well, the book took 5 years to write. It was published in 95, so around 90. The three of us decided to write the book, but it was an evolution from our
from the lecture notes from the sequence at Harvard.
Yes.
Oh, so it's basically micro 1, 2, 3. It was like the whole Harvard micro theory sequence.
Micro semesters.
First year. Oh, I did not know that.
First year graduate sequence. Of
did
course,
you have it?
The book is very thick, and we didn't cover everything. But the skeleton of the book, the lectures at Harvard in the first year graduate.
Oh, so it's like there's a Green section, there's a Winston section, there's like a Mas-Colell. It's like y'all had your classes are clearly, but does it actually now that I don't really know, is it to an astute reader, could they tell that the voice changes? Like the overall literary kind of voice of it starts to change a little bit.
We make an effort to avoid that. So I cannot say if a reader could distinguish. Probably a reader that knows our work, could determine who wrote the first draft of each of the chapters. But we work over all them. We discuss them together. Look, I have written a monograph
Mm.
and I have written a book, and then collective things, but I have written a textbook. Those are very different endeavors. In writing a monograph, you can think to oneself that the commercial success, let's say, let me put it crudely that way,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. You are writing for the ages.
Right.
So you have to do it well. You write for the ages. You don't have to worry too much about making it enormously accessible, because if it is good, the ages will discover it.
Right. Right.
And so you write your book, you read there. If it doesn't sell, doesn't matter. I mean, 20 years, 25 years from now, people will know what you did.
Yep.
A textbook is not like that. A textbook either is adopted or it's a flop.
Yep.
So you have to devote lots of time to the pedagogical aspects.
Yep.
So you have to work a lot into writing, rewriting, trying with the students, doing it in class,
Yep.
etc. And so something we did, the three authors, is to read each other's chapters.
So when that book was written, what was it replacing in the profession? What were people using instead? Were they just using articles, or was there a main book?
If I say I don't remember, well, it sounds presumptuous, but I don't really remember. I think I don't really. I mean,
Well, there's like these little
during many years there had been Henderson and Kwan, but that was before. Then there was Varian.
Yeah, there's Varian, but that doesn't seem remotely comparable.
Well, I mean, the product had to be differentiated. I mean, Varian did a very successful graduate course. Then he went to undergraduate.
Yeah.
We follow, in a sense, a different strategy. Ours is also graduate, but we pushed it to be overgraduate. That is to say, our text is probably more demanding that it's demanding.
Right.
So we didn't aim for it to be adopted, for it to be easy.
Right.
And we didn't think collectively. Then each of us has done other things, and I think that Winston wrote an undergraduate text, not of micro or of industrial. Anyhow, but in that text, we wrote it demanding in a deliberate way, in a purposeful way, and so for adoption at top places, and that work,
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what it displays. Maybe it did not displays anything. Let me add, just not to be misunderstood, that Varian's textbook is a great is a great book. There was also another very good book at that time and now, which is David Krebs.
Oh yeah.
David Krebs' book is also very good. I could say that talking about textbook, it is more personal.
Right.
So ours is more conventional in the sense that
Krebs is more personal.
More personal. I mean,
it's got a different kind of conversational style or something.
yes, is you recognize its cracks.
Uh-huh.
And that's a virtue. I think you don't recognize, maybe because we are three authors, we tried not to be recognizable as a single strong point of view. Maybe I'm being
Mm.
fair to Krebs. His book is really very good.
So were you surprised at how what a impactful textbook it became? Was there a point where you look back and you guys thought this is a much more influential book than we were expecting? Or was it always, I mean, it seems like you've trained decades of economists. You know, it's got to be really, really awe-inspiring.
Let me be honest with you. When one produces a textbook, one doesn't know.
Uh-huh.
Uh, if it works well, surprise is not the word, because then it would mean that you don't believe in your. Anything that happened would be a surprise. There would be uncertainty, but nothing was a surprise. So we were, of course, we were glad. I
Yeah.
will tell you what I am surprised at. I am surprised. I hope not to be misunderstood. I am surprised that that it has not been overcome by another text.
Right.
The publisher that of course has publishing in their hands for a while keep asking us to revise, and even suggesting to us that why don't you do as other textbooks and start cycling authors,
Oh,
incorporate new authors, and then the old authors fade away.
yeah.
And actually, I thought that could have been a good idea. We were not up to repeating the effort to put it or to keep doing revisions,
Yep.
because each of us had followed its own way,
Right.
and were involved in other things, and we were exhausted and that could have been that could have happened. It did not happen,
Hmm.
so it did not happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Huh.
what can I tell? What can I tell you? But sometimes I'm embarrassed, huh? because in the last 27 years, things have happened in micro.
Yeah, right. Right. So it's just a matter of time, probably,
Yes,
that it'll
I
be
hope that when now micro is taught, our book is used as a background or
right.
for half the course.
Yeah.
The more, but the more recent developments are incorporated.
Yeah. You know, I didn't leave us a lot of time to talk about this, but it's there must have been some, now that I've heard your story as a young man, now the sort of the mid-career part where you go back to Spain and go into public service. I guess that wouldn't have, when did that happen? When did you go into politics in
Okay.
Spain?
I come back in 95. I used to say, when people ask me how it is that you came from the United States, from Harvard to Spain, what does it take to do that? I'm not the only one that has made this jump to Europe from a consolidated position in the US. I think it takes four things. One feeling there are two kinds of immigrants in the US.
Mhm.
The immigrant that become an American after 3 years, and the ones that have their head permanently in the main square of their village back in Europe. And I was one of those, and those look from America a bit ridiculous. So if you are one of those, there is always a pull to perhaps do it. That's one thing. The second is the family. The family has to be amenable, and my family was, and I am eternally grateful to them. Actually, it worked very well for the family. We left our oldest son in the US. He went to college when we came to Spain. And these days, my two sons and daughters, our three children are in the US and Mexico. The second thing is there has to be a project which is more than academic, more than intellectual,
Right.
because then nothing can overcome Harvard or Berkeley. And in my case, it was participating in the founding and the development of the economics department of Pompeu Fabra University, which was a new university.
Okay.
And
This
the
is
third,
1995. Is this like 95 when you come back?
95, yes.
Okay.
The university had been founded 2 years before, and I became progressively involved. And the third, you have to have some economic responsibility or some economic leeway to accept the fact that economic conditions are not the same in Europe that in the US. Anyhow, so I made that jump. And then I became involved. I divided my time. In part, I continued doing research, and in part, it was institutional building. In the part that I was doing research, I oriented my research towards game theory.
Yeah.
And as I have said before, with Sergio Han from the Hebrew University, and probably because of this change of field. My most cited paper is I wrote between Barcelona and Jerusalem with Sergio Har on adaptive dynamics in repeated games.
Okay.
So I say that to indicate that I remain alive and scholarly.
Yeah.
And then the institution building, at some point, it derived into getting into a government position. So in 2000, I was appointed, was suggested to me, and I accepted, becoming Catalan member of the Catalan government with the responsibility of university and research matters.
Oh.
This was like a glorified dean position, and it was very natural to get into it since I had been already 5 years involved in promoting research in economics, and then I jumped into promoting research in everything.
It's a dean. The thing that would make
it's not
it wasn't a dean, but the thing that I should think in my mind is there must be some sort of closer connection with the government and the university system. Is that right?
Okay, the Catalan government has one of the ministers of the economic of the Catalan government is the Minister of Universities and Research.
Oh, got it.
The universities and research are funded and administered by the regional governments in Spain.
Yeah.
Like in Germany, for example. So I was the government. I had the government political responsibility for promoting, for directing and promoting university and research matters in Catalonia.
How many universities were you overseeing?
In Catalonia, there are 12 universities, of which 7 are public, 2 are semi-public, and 3 are private.
Mm.
I was involved with all of them. But besides that, there is also a sector of research centers, of which there are almost 40, and I was also on that.
Oh.
But in my philosophy, let's say, for promoting research was very straightforward, and it was attract talent and retain talent.
Yeah, right.
So my picture Europe is increasing its commitment to research. There is more and more money and resources at the European level.
Mm-hmm.
To build up excellency in Spain, it needs European resources. We will not do only with the Spanish resources, and university resources are very competitive.
Mm-hmm.
So if we want access to attract European resources, we need to compete at European level, and we need talent at European level. So that was the mantra of my political agenda. And we copied experiences from France, etc., and we build up a good policy of attracting research, which has been very, very successful.
Were you able to, so when you were in that position, you were still also a faculty member?
Oh,
You
yes,
held
I
both?
was a member on leave, and during that first period, 2005, I was still able to keep active. I mean, less productive than before, but still active, because of the fortunate fact that I was collaborating with Sergio Hart. And so I would organize my life on, even in politics, I could take weeks off, well-planned weeks off, and then I will fly to Jerusalem, and we will close ourselves up, and we'll work together. And conversely, he will take weeks off and come to Barcelona, and I will clear up commitments during that week, and we will work out very intensively, so that still allow us to keep up with our research agenda.
Well, so when you were doing that, did you ever was there a point where you started to see that you might want to expand your public service to go even beyond that? Was there a point where you thought, I would like to have an even larger career as a politician?
Not really. That first stage ended in 2005. I went back to academia. I went to Pompeu Fabra. I kept the institution building inclination, and with other people we were involved. Other people from other universities, Salvador Barberá, for example. We were involved in founding the Barcelona School of Economics. That was
Right.
a time where the Toulouse School of Economics was founded, and the Paris School of Economics was founded,
Oh,
and the
yeah.
Maastricht School of Economics was founded.
Oh,
So that was a wave of Europe of let's say imitations of the London School.
right. Oh, I never even noticed that. Yeah.
I used to say that I wanted to do the London School of Economics on the beach. And, then my colleagues chastened me and said it was not serious to say that, and say, okay, I'll change it. I will not say the London School by the beach. I will say the London School of Economics by the sea.
Well, so okay. So it must be that
So, we were part of a trend of upgrading with an Anglo-Saxon model.
Got it.
The teaching of economics in Europe.
I see. How many of those were there?
At that time, I was also president of the European Economic Association, was involved in the European state.
Okay. So there must be, though, over this period of time, there's this growing political tension within Spain and Catalonia. Is that right, though? I know that it's more recent,
not yet.
but there must be things going on.
Not yet. So let me keep. We are now by 2007, 2008. Huh?
Yeah.
Then let's say my life as a public manager of overall research got with me again. And it was in Europe, it was founded the European Research Council. I don't know, you know what the European Research Council is?
No.
It's the analog of the NSF.
Oh, okay, got it. Right.
It's the analog of the NSF. It gives large amounts of money to individual researchers. Has been a very successful institution. It was founded in 2007 after many years of preparation, and it was an agreement between, let's say, the scientific community that felt the need of a national science foundation, and the European Union, which wanted to get attachment of the more top scientific community. So out of that was created by now it distributed I think close to 2 billion euros a year, and has become very important in Europe. Anyhow, some people asked me to postulate myself for the position of Secretary General, and that position which was recently created, and then I was selected as the second Secretary General.
Okay.
So was affairs, and so in 2007 I was selected to start in 2010 as Secretary General of this. So that was 1 year in Brussels. I learned a lot. I learned how the European Union works from inside, and the European Commission works from inside, and I got also more experience in the wide field of science, not just social science. That lasted 1 year. It could have lasted longer, but 1 year was enough for me. So in 2010, I came back, free of commitments. Free of commitments. And then it was, there were elections in Catalonia, and the political people that won the elections, I felt an affinity with, and I was asked I was asked to take the position of finance minister. I could have said this is not my specialty. There is neither promotion of research or microeconomics. But then I thought, I am an economist,
Right.
so I was supposed to be a macroeconomist at the beginning of my life. So I could manage to run a budget,
Right.
and also university and research ended up being in the same ministry. So in a sense, I got back to university and research, although I couldn't devote time to that. I appointed a second for university and research and devoted my time in the years that follow to the finance part. It was also stimulating, professionally stimulating. I took that position when the crisis had already started, and when it was clear that the financial crisis will be monumental. So I say that I have been in government in two different situations. One, in the first one, was in 2000-2005. It was a time of expanding budgets. The second was a time of contracting budgets. And it's not the same. It's probably as important one from the other, but it's not the same. And but professionally, it is as relevant one as the other. So, and those was my period from 2010 to 2015, where I was in charge of the economy, as I said, university and research too, but the economy, finance, the public budget, with two crises going on. So one, the economy, the financial crisis, the world financial crisis. Second, the Catalan political crisis.
Yeah. So for the first one, does anything in your background as an economist prepare you for the things that you had to do during that, you said running the economy? I mean, did you find that you had the skill sets, or you felt, I mean, I just can't even, I can't even imagine what skills you needed to go from being a successful academic and then to switch. It's, I think about Janet Yellen, and she sort of had that specialized track her whole career. I don't feel like I've seen as many people do I just can't think of right off the top of my head somebody that has a full career as an academic and then has this full career as a government servant the way that you have.
Okay. First, I don't know if I was successful or not. That other people should say it, and perhaps if you ask around, you will find that your wonder could be real reservation. So it's not for me to say.
Sure.
That said, I had always I was always very political.
Yeah, right.
Even in the years, even in the 30 years where I was purely an academic. I read the New York Times every day, and Financial Times, and the Economist I have read since I was 18 years old. So that inclination was there. It's true that I didn't have the experience of running a budget. And then you have to know who can do it and find the collaborators, and so the life of a politician, it's I mean, let put it that way. The life of a politician in a responsibility of a ministry is, let's say, 40% of the time is shaking hands with mayors, people. You cannot delegate that. You have to do it yourself. People get offended if the minister doesn't want to see them. So 40% of the time is representation. It takes some skills, representation, but negotiating perhaps, but 40% of the time is putting out fires.
Yeah.
And I assure you that there's a fire a day.
Right.
And the rest of the time is substance. And so you cannot hope to run an institution if all the substance there is in it is the substance you can pretend to put in 20% or 15% of 15% of your time. So this means that a good politician, the first thing it has to do is to devote time to select very, very, very competent people,
Right.
and then trust them. In the case of universities and research, that's what I did. I selected, and to the person I say, I told him, "You have my complete trust. Do whatever you want. I just sign whatever you give me." And then I didn't think I am being very schematic. He would talk to me once in a while. So selecting people is the key. If you select the right people and you have some common sense, things will run fine. You will do the representation, and you will put out the fires, and the people you have appointed will do the work.
Yeah. So you survived that financial crisis, and then so tell me about what leads up with the vote for independence. Is that the correct way to describe it?
Yes, but it's important to keep the dates right.
Yeah.
The disagreement, the conservative government in Spain wins elections in 2000 and 2011.
Okay.
Then there is increasing discordance. I won't not going to in matters of substance. There will be increasing tension with Catalonia that arises from the fact that the previous to 2010 there has been a new autonomy law which had been negotiated, it had been voted, and then in 2010 the Constitutional Court declared many of its principal dispositions unconstitutional. So there have been a whole process of political change, agreed political change, culminated on a referendum in 2006. Then 2010, so something had to happen in 2010. And so the intention was to start a dialogue with the government, the conservative government. The possibility of dialogue had always been better with the left government, but not with the conservative government. That goes nowhere. In 2012, there are elections again in Catalonia. And then there is a big surge of the pro-independence sentiment, with two parties which align themselves with the pro-independence position, including the ones that had appointed me. That's 2012. Then there is a progressive thing that leads in 2017 to the referendum and the Declaration of Independence. That was in 2017. I was in government until 2015. I left government in 2015.
Oh, I see. Okay, got it. Got it.
So I
Were
was
you
not.
surprised, Dr. Mascola? Were you surprised by those that growing vote for independence that you were watching happening while you were in government? Was that something that was not surprising?
I was not surprised. I was leery because I was on the prudent side and I was preaching caution. But I was not surprised because I think there were grounds for it.
Mm.
But in fact,
Why
the
Catalonia?
president,
Why does Catalonia uniquely, of all the regions of Spain, why is it sort of in this unique position where it would have a valid claim for independence, but not other parts? I don't know the history and the politics at all very well.
well, it's not unique. The Basque Country is in exactly the same position.
Yeah, I knew about the Basque Country too.
So it's two is already a lot, no? And Galicia partially so. Because basically because Spain is culturally not a unified country. That's a fact.
Mm.
There are, let's say, the Catalans that speak Catalan and have its own history and its own history. The Basques the same. The Galicians the same. The matrix of what's Spain today is Castilian, and Catalonia is not Castile,
Mm.
and Spain has model its political model on France, which is a very centralized model.
Got it.
But in France, it was successful because it managed to absorb all the cultural difference into a unified French culture.
Mm.
Spain did not succeed in doing that. So
Mm.
we Catalans feel Catalan, speak Catalan, respect everybody else, but want to be respected too.
Yeah.
So it's the big debate is if Spain is organized accepting that it's a multinational country like Britain. I mean, I am impressed when I go to Britain and I hear the United Kingdom is composed of 4 nations. You know,
Right.
Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England. Well, that's in Spain you will not hear this officially. So that's the.
Is that true though? You would say in Spain, is it a country of 16 nations or something like that?
Not 16 nations, no, but 4 yes.
4. Okay.
Whatever. 4 I include Galician, but
Yeah.
that's for the Galicians to say.
Right. Right.
But 3 certainly. The Basques, the Catalans, and they have some very strong personalities. And so we would like to be like Quebec.
Right. Right.
That would be fine, and it will be fine to live in Spain, which is like Canada. Actually, it will be okay to live in a Spain, which is like Britain, or on like the United Kingdom, or even like Germany, which is a federal state. It's culturally more homogeneous. So in Spain is not homogeneous culturally, and is centralized like France.
Yeah.
A compromise could be if it was a federation or whatever.
Yeah.
So due to
So
this,
when is the vote? When is the vote for independence that's successful?
successful. It depends on how you look at it. It was the 1st of October. It cannot be called successful or unsuccessful. It was a vote called and declared illegal by the central government. Even so, and over 2 million people voted, but that was 40% of the electorate, and it was repressed in the state, which I don't know if you saw it, by confrontation with the police. It was quite quite an unpleasant day, and then that the confrontation of that day and the repressive attitude and the police beatings, etc., intensified the heat, and then the Catalan government of the moment made a big mistake, which was proclaiming an independence that they knew was impossible. So that was a big mistake. But, I emphasize I was out of that in 2015. And these days I am happy to see that matters are coming back to tension has gone down, and it keeps going down. And the current Spanish government, there is a much better understanding with the Catalan parties.
So you experienced some personal blowback from it, though, right? You had your assets seized because you had been in the ministry.
Yes, the Court of Accounts, the Tribunal de Cuentas, Court of Accounts, which is an administrative body, it's not a judicial body, it has administrative responsibilities, but it can fine, and worse than fines, it can ask that you put the money before the judgment, before the trial.
Yeah.
At some point, they went back and decided that some of the things that were done before 2015 could be held responsible for things that happened in 2017. Since I was responsible of the budget, so I was overall responsible of the budget. So if there were budget allocations, which in retrospect were thought suspect, they were in retrospect were thought suspect, then I could be put in administrative trial. And while this did not take place, actually it will take place the 17th of this month. In 17 days, we should our assets will be seized as a precaution of as a bond, and that was done.
That's going to happen in this month.
The 17th of this month.
Oh, wait, that's when it'll be seized?
No, they have already been seized. Actually, we could deposit a bank responded for us. There was a political movement, and a bank has provisionally given a bond for us.
Yeah.
So the asset at the end was not seized, but there is this bond pending there.
Okay.
Depending on how this trial goes, there will be a claim on us, or not. My family and I decided that we will not be worried by it. The worst that can happen is that we lose some asset. It will survive.
Yeah.
With a bit of but it may also happen that things end up well. Now there is talk of an amnesty, so it may end up with I having to pay something, or it may end up with I having to pay nothing. In both cases, so
Well,
No, the other people suffer more.
It's interesting that
I had a lot of international solidarity, which I am very grateful. In fact, it had an effect because the 12 members of this court
yeah.
were which were very militant, very militant. They were viciously militant. The disposition to bring us to their trial was made by 11 votes against 1, and the wrote dissenting vote argued very good. So those were replaced. Let's now not get into the mechanism of replacement. They were replaced, and now only 1 was kept, which is the one that dissented, and all the other 11 are new. 6 appointed by the Conservative Party, 6 appointed by the Socialist Party. So it appears that the general configuration of the body is more professional than the previous one.
Oh, that's good.
So things could end up either for professional reasons or for political reasons.
Right. Well, it's kind of interesting, the whole interview, and even in a way, the way that you started the interview, it's full circle, because
from politics to politics, no?
Yeah, you said as a young man you got arrested.
Passing by economics.
That's right. You said as a young man you were very political, and paid for it, and you've always, it seems like you've always been willing to pay for your public service, and you've got this attitude of, I guess it's just, your ability to have that attitude of you're going to be okay with whatever happens. I have to think it's because you just have always known it's costly to be involved in change. Is that right?
That's a good way to put it. And since I am still saying something, let me emphasize again, repeat that I got a lot of solidarity from the international economics community, and I am very, very grateful for that.
Yeah. Well, you're a hero to a lot of people. They think if they can pass their micro prelim because your book helped them, they feel affection forever. But it has really been such a nice opportunity to meet you like this, and for you to be so open and sharing of your whole life journey. I really appreciate getting to talk to you and to hear this part of this little bit of your life told to me.
Thanks a lot for asking, and my best wishes.
Okay. Bye, Dr. Mas-Colell.
Gonna see us through. Honey, you